Hi guys, it's Ricky with Christian Nerds Unite, and today we're going to talk about all the nerdy news that's out, and we'll get to that right after this. I've been using Coinbase.com and the Coinbase app for cryptocurrency for about 2 years now, which makes it really easy and safe to buy, sell, and store digital currency like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Sign up now and use my link at christiannerdsunite.com/Coinbase and get $10 of free Bitcoin when you buy or sell at least $100 worth of digital currency. Join 43 million other people who buy, sell, and manage their crypto on the world's most trusted crypto exchange. Check it out at christiannerdsunite.com/Coinbase. And now, back to the show. Now, before we get into the nerdy news, I want to give you some good news in the scripture. So let's start with Matthew 4:23 through 24. Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. News about him spread all over Syria, and people brought to him all who were ill with various diseases, those suffering with severe pain, the demon-possessed, those having seizures, and the paralyzed, and he healed them. And Luke 4:16 through 20. He went to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogue, as was his custom. He stood up and read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom to the prisoners and recovery of sight to the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And he rolled up the scroll and gave it back to the attendant and sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogue were fastened on him. Most of the time when we hear the word news, it makes us think of some bad things happening, either locally or around the world. Politics, disaster, or other negative connotations might come to mind. I actually used to work for a local news station. It was an NBC affiliate here. There was a saying that I heard a lot from other people, not actually in the newsroom, but if it bleeds, it leads, meaning the worse the situation, the more likely it was to be the top news story of the day. We did not use that saying at the station, but it wasn't far from the truth. I always enjoyed the days that I got to focus on a more positive story, or that we could turn what seemed like a negative story into something positive. I prefer good news to bad news all the time. And these verses that I just read are on the good news. Now, most of you listening understand what I mean when I say the good news. We're talking about the good news of the gospel. Jesus coming to earth, sacrificing himself for our sakes, and raising again. And now we wait for his return. If you're not sure about all that, or you want to chat, feel free to message me via email or on Facebook or Instagram. I'd love to talk to you about it. And maybe you join me and go on a journey through the Bible and to discover what the Bible says about Jesus. I'd love to do that with you. Now that we've talked about the good news, let's get to some nerdy news. How about that? So, first thing, there are a lot of films coming out. The theaters are opening back up. It's a really exciting time in media, especially in the film realms. A lot of the films that were postponed from 2020 are finally being released in 2021. So it's a pretty exciting time. And I want to start with one that's actually opening just in a few days, if you're listening to this on the week that I release. Otherwise, you can check it out later. But Ghostbusters Afterlife is about to release. It releases June 11th. It's going to be rated PG-13. And this is kind of a back to the origins, back to the original movies, not a reboot. So we're not talking about the 2016 female-led Ghostbusters that was basically a reboot in a slightly different universe. That was kind of a different thing. In this movie, we're actually back to the original universe that the original movies from the 80s were from. And it features a single mother and two children who realize they have some relation to the original Ghostbusters. And it will definitely be paying tribute to the original movies. The most exciting thing I think about this is that we're going to see Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson all reprise their roles. Sigourney Weaver is supposed to be back, as well as Annie Potts. And so that's really pretty awesome to see those original cast members come back for this movie. Obviously, we've got whole new people that we're going to be introduced to. And one of the actors that's joining the cast is Paul Rudd of Ant-Man fame. I'm really looking forward to this movie. I think it could be really, really great. It's probably going to do tons and tons of fan service. Since it has a couple of kids as kind of the driving force, I think it's a good chance that this could be a good family movie. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for it. I'm not sure when I am going to be able to see it myself, but I do want to see this movie. Now, next up is Black Widow, which is coming out July 9th. So we're right at a month away from this movie. This one is going to be a Disney Plus Premier Access event. So you'll be able to go watch it in theaters or watch it at home. You got to pay $29.95 or $29.99. I'm not sure the exact price it's going to be, but you'll have to pay that extra fee to watch Black Widow at home. But if you've got a large family, say you've got 3 or 4 people in your family, you're all going to watch it together. That's a whole lot cheaper than toting everybody to the theater and watching it there. Now, you're definitely not going to get the same experience. I definitely understand that. Black Widow, I'm super excited about. This is going to be a movie that focuses on the bit of the Black Widow origin story, but it's not set in that time. So we'll probably see lots of flashback kind of situations. We're going to see some Soviet super soldiers. So we're going to see Red Guardian show up and Taskmaster as the big bad villain. Now, if you're not familiar with Taskmaster, kind of the premise of Taskmaster is that he can copy anybody's fighting style by just watching them once, which makes him a very formidable opponent. All he has to do is watch you one time and he knows all your moves. So I don't know how much they're going to play up that feature in the movie or if he's just going to be really good at what he does. So we will see exactly how they play that up. I kind of hope they go with that kinetic feature where he's able to match blow for blow each opponent that he comes across. It could really make him a better foe in general if he had that kind of ability. And it would be something we haven't seen in the MCU yet. He's not just a guy that got some drugs and is super special, or that has just been super trained by somebody, which we've seen that in lots and lots of different characters through the MCU. Later in July, we have Snake Eyes. Now, this is a G.I. Joe origin story. If you're not a G.I. Joe fan or you're not familiar with who Snake Eyes is, He is basically a ninja that was trained that joins the G.I. Joe military outfit. And I remember this from when I was a kid in the 80s. I loved the old G.I. Joe cartoons and kind of the basic origin story. And I assume this is where the movie is going to go. The trailer is out. Definitely go check it out if you're a G.I. Joe fan. Even if you're not, it does look like it could be a really good action movie. But the premise of the original story is that Snake Eyes, he's the good guy ninja, and Storm Shadow, which was kind of the bad guy alternative to Snake Eyes. They were both part of the same ninja clan, and they both trained at the same place since they were children, and they trained together, but ended up taking different paths, and because something happened, and presumably it was something that Storm Shadow had done. Now, the how they play that out in this film is a little unclear as of yet. My guess is we are going to see something like that happen here. And we are expecting to see the Baroness and Scarlet show up. So it's a good possibility that if they play up this idea of Snake Eyes versus Storm Shadow, that we have the Baroness and Scarlet come in and try to recruit both of them, or recruit one or the other, and that's where we see them separate and become opposite sides. Now, next, this movie, I'm not looking forward to this movie. It could be good, it could be fun. It's going to be ridiculous, whatever happens, but it's called Jungle Cruise. It's coming out July 30th of 2021, and if you're not familiar with the idea of Jungle Cruise, this is, you've heard of movies that were based on cartoons, like G.I. Joe. You've seen movies that are based on video games. They didn't do so well. Now, what about a movie that's based on a Disney ride? Disney has actually had really good success with this once, the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. You don't think about that, but that really originated based on a Disney park ride. So this is a new franchise that they are trying to launch using a Disney park ride, the Jungle Cruise ride. Now, we're going to see The Rock, Dwayne Johnson is going to be in the film, and that makes me think this is going to have some humor in it. I hope so. If they make this humorous, if they make this a good family movie, this could be something that could at least be fun. I don't see this becoming a franchise like Pirates of the Caribbean. I just don't think there's enough lore there to carry it on into multiple movies, but it could be a fun little romp. It is also going to be Disney Plus Premier Access, so you can go see it in theaters, or you can pay the extra fee and watch it on Disney Plus. Now, since I mentioned Disney Plus Premier twice now, I just want to be clear. Each time that one of these movies comes out as a Disney Plus Premier Access, you have to pay the extra fee for that one movie. This is not a one-time thing. This is not a monthly additional fee. This is a per movie based charge. So I just want to make sure everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about. So if you've got Disney Plus, if you haven't checked out Premier Access yet, check it out. There are already movies that are available there, and some of them might be things you want to see. Another movie that I didn't actually put on my list, but it just came to mind, is the new Cruella movie, and it is also a Disney Plus Premier Access. So those are the kind of things you might find in the Premier Access area. Right at the end of June, and these are all coming out this summer, all these movies that I'm talking about, is going to be The Green Knight. And I don't know a lot about this movie, but I'm kind of interested in the idea. This is going to be a rated R movie. It's going to be a fantasy adventure kind of movie. It's based on an Arthurian legend, the legend of the Green Knight, and this is the poem of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And he embarks on a quest, and he meets the Green Knight, a gigantic tree-like creature, and has to do some things there. And I won't go into the whole story, but if this is true to the legend, this could be a very, very interesting film. If they go way off script, I don't know where we're even going to try to go with this movie. But it could be good if it's well done. Just looking at the cast and crew, it looks like it could be a very good movie. Might check it out. I would say definitely watch the trailers, read more up about it before you go check it out. Next up is, starting off August 6th, The Suicide Squad. Not to be confused with Suicide Squad. Yeah, that's all it takes to have a sequel now, is adding the word "the" to the beginning of your movie, apparently. So that's a thing. Now, this is the James Gunn directed DC film, and we've got some of the original cast from the original Suicide Squad movie, and we've got Margot Robbie. We're adding Idris Elba as a new character. Then we've got John Cena, of all people, who is definitely trying to make a name for himself in the film industry. So I'm interested to see how this one plays out. Some wrestlers have done really well moving from professional wrestling into film. Think about The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. We've already mentioned him once. We have Dave Bautista playing Drax in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and he was actually in the Blade Runner sequel as well. And then we have wrestlers that didn't do quite as well recently, such as Adam Copeland. You might know him as the WWE star The Edge, starring in a movie called The Money Plane, which is just horrific. Just so bad. Don't even watch it. So, good luck, John Cena. I wish you well. I hope you do better than some others. But I'm not sure that John Cena has what Dwayne Johnson or Batista has. So I'm interested to see how this one goes, especially since John Cena has also already been cast as the same character, Peacemaker, in a ongoing HBO show. So I haven't seen any information about production dates on that, but that is already on the slate, and it could be something interesting. So I'm definitely watching the career of John Cena with interest. Then we have Sly Stallone. Sylvester Stallone is going to be the voice of King Shark. Viola Davis is returning, and we have Peter Capaldi, of all people, who's going to be playing the Thinker. And if you're familiar with Peter Capaldi, you'll know he was recently one of the doctors in Doctor Who. A great, great actor. And that is going to be a great part for him. The Thinker would be a great fit. Next up, we've got August 13th, Free Guy. Now, I bring up Free Guy for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's got Ryan Reynolds in it. Anything that's got Ryan Reynolds in it, if it's not a romantic comedy, is probably nerdy. And that's kind of where we are right now with Ryan Reynolds' career. It seems to either be really nerdy and action-packed, or it is a romantic comedy. So, but Free Guy is basically an NPC, if you're not familiar with that term, a non-player character. If you're not familiar with that term, you might not be nerdy enough for this podcast. I'm not sure. But a non-player character, an NPC, becomes sentient, and he's able to start changing what he does, and he is able to control himself instead of doing the same thing day in and day out as a non-player character. So he finally realizes he is part of a game and can start seeing the real players playing. So this really looks good. It looks funny. The trailer looks great. The graphics look amazing. Probably PG-13 at the minimum. Since it's Ryan Reynolds, there's a good chance this is going to be R-rated, but I'm not seeing any ratings yet. That often happens right before release. That kind of brings us to the end of the summer with all the nerdy movies that I'm interested in, but I did want to talk to you about some other interesting news. So one of the big things that just happened is Amazon just acquired MGM for $8.4 billion. Now, why does it matter that Amazon acquired MGM? Here's why it matters. That gives them over 4,000 movie titles and 17,000 hours of TV material. More importantly, it gives them control over certain franchises that you might not think about. Number one, they now have access to the Rocky series. So Rocky, Creed. So knowing what Amazon is capable of, TV and film-wise, we could be seeing Rocky series or Creed series or, prequels or, future movies, something based in that same universe. It also gives them the rights to the Hobbit movies. Now, this is a separate set of rights from the Lord of the Rings series. So that's kind of some complications there, but they do have access to the Hobbit franchise. They also have access to, this was the big one, this is the one that hit the news for everybody, James Bond. So Amazon having access to James Bond could change what James Bond is in the future. Will it continue to be a blockbuster movie franchise, or will they move it into a TV series kind of franchise, or will they branch it out into both? That is a big conjecture. A lot of people are closely watching what Amazon is going to do, especially because of James Bond. Now, these next few get kind of complicated because they're on other platforms, so expect them to possibly move soon. They will be taking over The Handmaid's Tale, which is a Hulu original. They have access to Fargo, which is an FX show. That becomes really complicated because FX was Fox, which is owned by Disney now. So I'm not sure where that one's going to fall in. But if you're a Fargo fan, Amazon now has some access to that. Then we have History's Vikings. And I know some of my listeners are interested in the Vikings show. So Amazon now has some interesting new access to some interesting franchises because of this purchase of MGM. And don't be surprised if we start hearing over the course of the next 6 months about a lot of new series coming out of Amazon because of it. Another new film that is in the works. If you're a Willy Wonka fan, you might be interested in this. There is a young Willy Wonka movie in the works. We're hearing that Timothée Chalamet, I think I pronounced that name correctly, is going to be playing Willy Wonka, and this is going to be before he owned the factory. So I wonder if we're going to see a young Grandpa Joe in this film as well. This could be a fascinating movie. I am a huge Willy Wonka fan. I liked the original movie from the 70s, and I really enjoyed the more recent movie with Johnny Depp. I think they're both really, really good for what they are. And next up, a new teaser trailer from The Eternals. Now, you've heard me talk about the Eternals movie before on this show, and I won't belabor it. I'm not looking forward to this movie. It does look really, really good. The cinematography looks great. Nothing to be surprised with there. It is going to be up to Marvel standards on production. I really do hope they focus on the Circe and Black Knight story, their romance, and, what the Black Knight is and who he is and how he could play into the Avengers in the future. I really hope that's where they focus and that they don't try to focus on a huge ensemble movie. I think that would be the best move. But that movie is coming up later this year, not this summer. It's going to be in the late fall, early winter. But the teaser is out. Check it out. It looks really, really amazing. Next up is Venom, Let There Be Carnage. That is September 24th release date, so it's a little past the summer. We're getting into the fall there, and the trailer just dropped. It is really funny. It is really spot on for the Venom franchise. It looks really good. Expect this movie to be rated R. And one thing to know about this movie is Woody Harrelson will be playing Carnage in this movie. So now we have two symbiotes who are going to be battling each other. I think the CGI in the trailer looks really, really good. I definitely think this is going to be a movie not to miss. I think it will be really good. Be aware, it's probably going to be rated R. There will probably be some language, and there will definitely be some carnage. So next up is a Highlander reboot, and kind of the big news here is Henry Cavill is in talks about playing in the Highlander reboot. Now, nobody's really sure exactly what he'll play. Presumably he would play the good guy. Presumably he would be Connor McLeod. And I think that could be a great character for him. It seems to fit the best. I do really hope that they ditch all the alien stuff that happened in the sequels. Stick with the more mystical elements. Stick with... Don't explain stuff. We don't always have to have explanations for everything that happens. It's okay. And it is supposed to be a Highlander reboot, not a continuation of the stories. So I hope it's a real reboot. I hope they retell the original stories, and I hope they leave it as a mystical unknown as to why these people live eternally. But I'm not sure why they ever needed sequels. Not even sure why we need a reboot, because we all know there can be only one. Now, next up is He-Man Netflix cartoon series. If you haven't heard about this, there's been a lot of images just released recently. They look really amazing. The artwork looks great. This is definitely throwing back to the cartoon from the 80s. And the look is more updated, more sculpted, but it definitely has the feel of a good quality action cartoon. This is going to be a 5-episode part 1 series, and it's going to be released on July 23rd, so this summer. We've got Chris Wood playing Prince Adam. But more importantly, we have Mark Hamill as Skeletor. That's right. The Jedi himself, Mark Hamill, the voice of the Joker, classic voice actor Mark Hamill will be playing Skeletor. I'm really interested in this. He-Man was never one of my favorite cartoons, but I did watch it. But to see the way this cartoon looks, it looks great. If they're able to keep that feel and make it exciting, I think it could be good. What I am reading is that they are focused on the original fans. This is not trying to do a cartoon for kids today. It is trying to do a cartoon for the adults that enjoyed He-Man in the 80s. Another thing that has been big in the news right now is Avengers Campus. This is at Disneyland's California Adventure. And you can see there's a Spider-Man attraction there. There's going to be a diner, a restaurant that's called the PIM Test Kitchen, where you're going to see food that is entirely too big and food that is entirely too small. And also there's a Doctor Strange's portal to the Sanctum. There's going to be character meet and greets. So expect to see people like Thor and Black Panther, Black Widow, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and maybe even Loki. And speaking of Loki, June 9th, 2021. In fact, if you're listening to this on release day, June 9th is tomorrow. So tomorrow will be the first episode of the new Loki show. It is being released on Disney Plus, and it's the first Disney Plus series that's coming out weekly that's going to be released on a Wednesday. And that's kind of interesting. The question is, why is it going to be released on a Wednesday? It was originally scheduled to be released on Friday of this week, but a couple of months ago, it was announced it was going to be moved up to a Wednesday release. A lot of people conjecture that they are trying to keep it from competing directly with The Bad Batch, which releases on Fridays, a Star Wars story, The Bad Batch. And that could be the case. I'm not sure why streaming services would be concerned with competing shows, since you're not competing for time slots. It would be simple enough for people to watch two separate shows on the same day at whatever time they decide, especially since The Bad Batch is only about 30 minutes, and Loki is presumably going to be in that 45-minute range. We're expecting it to be more like the Falcon and Winter Soldier setup, so probably 45 to 50-minute episodes, probably going to be about 6 of them, rather than a longer 8 or 9 that are shorter like WandaVision was. Now, what's the point of the Loki show if you haven't heard of it or not familiar with the upcoming show? This is all throwing back to the Endgame movie where Loki grabs the Tesseract and disappears. So, at one point, Loki had died and presumably was completely dead this time, but he always finds a way to come back. Except we're going to jump forward and jump backward in time so much that Loki gets a hold of the Tesseract at an earlier time before he had some redemption story. So we've got a messed up Loki again, but now he's time hopping and screwing up the timeline. And he finally gets captured by the Time Variance Authority and is forced to go on a journey to set everything straight. I think this is going to be a pretty funny show, but at the same time, pretty action-packed. Gonna be something akin to Forrest Gump or Quantum Leap, show from the late 80s, early 90s. If you're familiar with that, where Loki is going from place to place to fix the problems he's caused. There's, from the looks of some of the trailers, maybe he's going to be D.B. Cooper. I don't know if he's going to quantum leap into somebody's body or if he's going to show up in this area and just have to fix the situation being who he is, or if he's going to disguise himself as these people, kind of like Quantum Leap. I don't know. This is going to be interesting. I'm really excited about seeing this tomorrow. I will definitely be watching it as early as I possibly can. Well, that's all I have for you today, and I hope you got some good news from it, especially a reminder of the good news of Christ. Now, don't forget, you can find all of our social links, our online store, and links to our YouTube channel at ChristianNerdsUnite.com. And while you're there, check out our support tab and think about joining our Patreon. We would love to have your support. But before we go, I do want to leave you with this blessing. Dear God, thank you that you make all things new. Thank you for all that you've allowed into our lives this year, the good along with the hard things, which have reminded us how much we need you and rely on your presence filling us every single day. Amen. Well, we'll see you next week. Blessings.